I thank you all very much for coming, because I know we all have busy schedules, and this is important for us because we want to be, we think that, you know, the church is just not a building, it's our whole community. And so that's why we're doing this outreach to see how we can all partnership with each other and make, you know, make our community a better place. So thank you very much. Well, just want to let you know that we're going to be recording this, because I know there's going to be a lot of lively conversations going on, and we want to make sure that we don't forget anything that we heard, so that we'll make sure that we could use this information to help change how we run our church. So today also, besides, I'd like to introduce you, there's Pastor Sue here, and our council president, President Henry Lohman, and then our guest speakers, we have Emily Glines. She's the membership chair for Village of the Coastside. Welcome, Emily, and thank you. And we have Jenny Walter from Coast Pride, and she's the vice chair. And thanks very much, Jenny, for joining us. And then we have Libby Garcia from Mercado de Mi Familia. She's the owner of the grocery store there in the market. And then she's also a mother of children, so she can give us the perspective of what, you know, what moms need and what the families need with their children. So thank you very much. So are there any questions? Okay, so that we'll just go ahead and proceed. And we sent the questions out ahead of time to make sure that you'd have time to think about the answers. And we'll just, I'll ask the questions, and I'll start with different ones of each time, so you don't have to be the first one each time. So our first question today is, well, first I'd like you to tell me a little bit about your organization. So Emily, if you want to tell us a little bit about Coastside Village. So,
whoops, unmuted now. Okay. And let me know if you can't hear me, because sometimes people have had trouble on this computer. But Village of the Coastside started almost 5 years ago, and it's an all-volunteer organization with the goal of enabling people to remain in the community and in their homes as they age in our community. So our membership is older, though there is no age limit. And it's been a challenging time for us. As an organization, you may not be familiar with the village movement, but all villages have this goal of enabling people to remain in their own homes as they age and in their community. Our emphasis has been on social connections. Many villages tend to have a membership that is predominantly folks who need assistance in their home, or need rides, or need grocery shopping. But the preponderance of our membership are folks who join to support the concept and for the social connections, realizing that social isolation is as big a problem as any for people as they age. Recently, because of the COVID situation and the fact that Judy Macias, our founder, has passed away, and many of you would be familiar with Judy, we have become what's known as a spoke of the villages of San Mateo County. So there are villages in the Redwood City area and in San Mateo area, and we are working together then. But we will retain our emphasis and identity here on the coastside to promote people being able to remain in our community. That was a lot, sorry.
No, thanks, Emily, because we like to know what each other does. So Jenny, would you like to tell us what your purpose is there and what you do for Coastside Pride, please? And
sure. Would it be okay for me to share my screen and just go through a couple of slides with you?
Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
Let me just make you co-host.
Okay. So while you're doing that, my name's Jenny Walter. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm thrilled to be here today to share information with you about Coast Pride, which is just an organization that's a nonprofit, been around only 2 years. On the coast, we serve from Pescadero through Pacifica, and I'm going to share my screen right now. And let me know if you can see it. I'm the vice chair and one of the founding members of Coast Pride. And our mission and vision is that we are creating a coastside where people of all sexual orientations and gender identities and expressions thrive. We're a volunteer board of 9 people. We don't have any staff. And our programs fall into 3 general categories: health and wellness, education and visibility, and social reform. Our health and wellness programs focus on providing support groups for LGBTQ youth and also separate support groups for caregivers of those youth. And they meet regularly and have been for the last 2 years. And thanks to the fact that our county is moving into orange level now, we're hoping to have everybody be meeting together. So that's been pretty exciting for the groups. Because just as the previous presenter spoke, isolation, of course, is a big thing for older adults, and it's a big thing right now for all of us during the pandemic. And everybody is trying so desperately to figure out how to have those connections, which again is why I want to just commend you all for inviting us, because I think it's desperately needed, these types of gatherings where we can connect and learn about each other and support one another in our communities. So again, just thank you for inviting me. And then the second area is education and visibility. These programs have been focusing on LGBTQ History Month, which is in October, and working with our partners, the city, the chamber, the school district, and others and nonprofits to basically raise awareness and education about the shoulders that we stand on as we move forward to advance the lives and support for LGBTQ people. And then visibility in June, we do, for the last 2 months, we've been doing June Pride, which has been the first on the coast. So we've been having some historic events where the whole coastside has really been embracing. And so it's been a really wonderful experience to be able to be part of this new organization and doing this. And then social reform, again, making an impact on primarily equity issues. The school has adopted a policy on equity that protects all classes of people, whether it comes to race and ethnicity, whether it comes to sexual identity or expression, orientation, race and ethnicity, undocumented status. And so we're working with them on that equity policy, which we drafted with them. And now we are working on a regulation to implement structural changes in the schools when it comes to sexual orientation and gender identity. So social reform work is the work that we're taking on, and we're embracing everybody to do it with us. And those are the 3 areas, and I'll stop there. I do want to share a little bit about the needs of our community, but I'll wait till we get there. So I'll stop sharing.
Thanks a lot, Jenny. And Libby, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about your role in Mercado de Mi Familia, please.
Sure. So we have been open for a little over 10 years. We're a family business with myself and my husband, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and their mom and dad. So it's actually a family business. We have family working in the store as well as other people, but we have been trying to provide the community with affordable groceries, fresh meat, fresh produce, and a range of different groceries. We specialize in Hispanic foods, but we carry all kinds of different stuff. So just trying to keep, affordability for a lot of people, especially during this time, is our main focus. So
thank you. All right. So it was nice to get to know all of you. And Rabbi, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Gosh, I'm just here to listen, really. But
okay, that's fine.
Representing the Coastside Jewish community, we're happy to be part of this.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Okay. So our first question Libby, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Okay, so it's from your vantage point, what are the major changes you have seen in this community over the last 5 years? And what do you think will look like in the next 5 years?
So I think we've seen a lot of people with the pandemic lately losing their jobs. One thing for us is we have a lot of low income families that have been shopping with us, and we see the families come in. My kids go to school with a lot of these kids. So it seems like that's kind of been a trend of people not finding affordable housing and just not having enough money to buy the things they need to pay their bills. I'm hoping that in the next 5 years, with minimum wages going up, that people will start getting back into jobs and being able to provide and support their families better.
Thank you very much.
You're
All
welcome.
right. So, Jenny, I'll ask you the same questions from your vantage point. What are the major changes you've seen in the community the last 5 years or the last 2 years since you've been open here and also what will we look like in another 5 years?
Okay, I'm going to start with just giving you a little bit of an overall of some of the statistics and the needs of the LGBTQ community. So I'm going to share my screen again just because it's fast. So statewide, LGBTQ students experience alarmingly high rates of bullying, harassment, and victimization. They really do report not feeling safe at school. And between 50 and 70% report experiencing verbal harassment and bullying. They're 2 times more likely to report depression or chronic sadness and 3 times more likely to report suicidal ideation than their non-LGBTQ peers. When we did a needs assessment of the San Mateo County youth, I was sitting on the LGBTQ Commission, and the data that we received was comparable. So you can read this chart that basically our youth really want to feel safe and welcome and included, and they're not feeling that. 77% of the youth considered harming themselves in the last year. 64% considered suicide. Close to 100%, 90% of youth did not hear positive messages about LGBTQ from their leaders or their communities. And 80% heard negative messages at school, things like, "That's so gay." And those words, while perhaps for some of us growing up in the 60s and 70s, you might have gotten beaten up for being gay, while things have gotten better, there's really a pervasive feeling among LGBTQ youth that they get shunned out of activities and pushed out of activities. And I wanted to highlight this data for you because when we actually held a focus group on the coast here in Half Moon Bay and invited youth and educators, we got the same types of comments and remarks, which is what caused Coast Pride to say, you know what, visibility is key. We need to make sure that as we do our work, we're advancing it with our faith-based community, our civic leaders, our business leaders, and our schools, so that we can try and have more visibility, raise more awareness, and then be there for our youth to be able to drop in and provide that type of counseling. So to your question though, which is, how have things changed in the last 5 years and where do I see things going? I think obviously things have changed in the long run and we live in the Bay Area, but we mustn't forget that as the Bay Area, we are more remote. There is less acceptance and tolerance in the schools, particularly because it reflects a broader, the broader society and societal norms. And so in large measure, the changes that I see happening in just 2 short years are amazing. This community on the coast side is incredibly inclusive and welcoming once you put those messages out there. On our website is a fantastic video of Farmer John, who is crying in this video at the end saying, "I raised the rainbow flag." And he was one of 3 businesses that did so in the last 2 years. There's never been a rainbow flag raised on the coast side until now. And so I just, what I see is a tremendous outpouring of support, inclusivity, and a desire to learn and have things change. So I am very hopeful and I'm so pleased to be part of the Coastside community, and in particular the faith-based community here on the coast. I'm a member of CJC and I'm a member of Holy Family. My wife and I are an interfaith family, and so we've raised our daughter here that way. And so I'm just, I can't tell you how happy I am to be at this venue sharing information with you now for that reason. So, and then I think I've talked too much. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back to you.
No, thank you, Jenny, because we want to know about each other. So thank you very much. Emily, I'll ask you the same question. What have you seen in the community, the different changes in the past 5 years, and what do you think the future looks like for us in the next 5 years?
Well, yeah, for the population we engage with, older people, obviously we're aging, and the census data has demonstrated this. So there will be more aging people in Half Moon Bay and up and down the coast. 50% of our membership actually lives north of Half Moon Bay. We cover the area from Pacifica to the south end of Half Moon Bay. That group itself is aging. And then, of course, with the addition of housing, some fairly large housing developments for senior populations, this has also increased the number of aging people on the coast side. Meanwhile, because houses are less affordable, increasingly, there's been a reduction in affordable housing that would attract younger people. And some of these things will come up under other issues. The other thing I've noticed in particular about the coast side is that at least downtown Half Moon Bay is becoming, in terms of shopping and this kind of thing, more tourist oriented and less available for people of ordinary income to remain on the coast side and do their shopping. So some people, online shopping has been a remedy, but it also means people are making more trips over the hill. And as we all know, transportation is a challenge. Well, the rest of what I'd have to say probably comes under other issues. But I think in general, an aging population that will have increasing medical needs that cannot necessarily be well met on the coast side, because in order to see, for most people to see their physicians, you have to go north or south, most of the time over the hill. No, south, not at all, over the hill.
So Emily, since I have you, I'll let you be the first one to answer the next question. It's in your role or organization, what's the most difficult issues you currently face? And you kind of touched on that, but.
Yeah, well, I think rebuilding after COVID is going to be an immediate challenge right now. The great value of our organization, again, is its social connections, and we need to let people know that. But we also have the opportunity now to increase the amount of help that we can provide people in their homes because of our linkage with the Bayside villages, who are well organized and emphasize assistance in the home, so that we'll be wanting to build our relation or increase the number of members we have that want services in their homes. For example, we could do things like add a ramp, and probably all of the materials would be paid for. So there's those kinds of things we can begin to offer seniors, again, because of our relationship with Bayside people. So the main challenge is going to be our outreach and engagement with people who would like our help. We are a membership organization. We're volunteer, but we do have dues. And I think we will also want to begin to offer what some villages call scholarships or subsidized memberships.
Thank you.
So building those things.
So Libby, in your organization, what do you find the most difficult issues that you are currently facing?
So for us, I guess we don't really have very many difficult issues right now. When the pandemic started, we had some trouble making sure that we were able to find the food. You know, people were coming in and kind of hoarding and just buying everything that we had. So we've been lucky and able to, you know, shop different places and make sure we can find what the community is looking for to purchase. Still trying to keep the prices low, but just going to different vendors and making sure that we have fresh produce, fresh meat and groceries that people are looking for. So prices have gone up on a lot of things. So for us, just trying to keep everything affordable and in stock has been our biggest challenge. But so far we've been doing pretty good with keeping everything up. So
Thank you, Libby. And Jenny, I'll ask you that question now. In your role or organization, what are the most difficult issues you currently are facing?
Well, I think the most difficult problems are the ones that I identified in terms of the youth and the young people. And particularly the young people are coming out earlier and earlier. And research shows that at age 3 or 4 or 5, a young person will know that they are transgender, or they'll know their sexual orientation and will start expressing that. So while all of that is true, I would say that during the pandemic, what has been somewhat difficult is that we know everybody in our community is struggling so much when it comes to just basic needs. And I mean just broadly, you know, everything that has been a problem on the coast side has been exacerbated to some extent because people's health have been impacted, people's jobs have been impacted, people's ability to just meet basic needs has been impacted. And so that combined with the social isolation that everybody is feeling, on the one hand, that's, you know, we're all struggling with that to differing degrees depending on whether you're more low income or a person of color in our community. And so there are disparate impacts happening. On the other hand, the positive piece of it that I am seeing in our community is people are coming together more and more than I have ever seen in terms of taking action, and in terms of wanting to take action and wanting to know where to have the most, to give the most, and to feel connected the most with one another. So I guess I see it as both I don't see it so binary. I see it as we've all kind of caught up to each other on the empathy front, on what everyone is going through. And so it is tapping that empathy and that community that we strive for on the coast side to make a difference. And so I see it as both a positive as well.
Thanks, Jenny. So Jenny, I'll start with you for the next question. It's there's 3 parts to it. What are the primary signs of hope for the future that you see? What groups are doing the most to address community needs, and how?
So I guess the hope was part of the segue of the pandemic sucks and we're all in this together, but it is showing that we have some resiliencies and the ability to see one another in ways that maybe we hadn't seen each other before or tried not to notice. And so it's made people get out of their comfort zone in a great deal. And here we are on a Zoom call. No, none of us like Zoom, but we're finding ways to connect. So in terms of the hope, the primary hope is, I think that I see an increase in our ability to have empathy. That whereas in life, one is in a parade and you're usually walking around in your parade, right? And you don't see what came before or after because you've moved on in your parade. There's a way in which that parade has been kind of broken a little bit during the pandemic, and we're able to have a little more empathy. The groups that are doing the most, I would say the groups that are doing the most have, to me, to be about where the disparate impact is of the pandemic right now. So the disparate impact is truly for our anyone who's low income, primarily our Latinx community that and primarily we live in a community here. We have so much wealth and then so much poverty. And so the pandemic has disproportionately impacted that group who's low income and primarily Latinx. And I see that the groups that have done the most, when I look at it from that lens, really are your store, Libby, and your family. When it comes to the organizations, Alas has been amazing at stepping up and being there 24/7. I've seen the Coastside Immigrant Advocacy Group has been amazing in networking and trying to get information back and forth. The Coastside Collaborative has also really done an amazing job of just keeping information flowing. The city has stepped up in terms of its role on the collaborative. Coastside Hope is there constantly. And I'm sure I'm missing organizations, so I always hate to like name them, but you asked to name them. So I'm sure I'm missing them. And so, you know, everybody who's here on the calls, I mean, clearly the Village of the Coastside has had to, I'm sure, step up so much in terms of meeting the needs of older adults who are isolated in their homes, don't have food. So did I answer the 3-part question? I'm looking back at my notes. What was the third one?
Yeah. What are the primary signs of hope for the
And
future?
how? And how? I've done it. I'm sure I missed somebody, and so I apologize for oversight for some of the organizations that I may have omitted. But
thank you. No, I know our service clubs in town are really active too.
Yeah.
Like Lions and Rotary. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that helps you out a little, but yeah. So now, Libby, we'll go to you to ask you these questions. What are the primary signs of hope for the future that you see? And what groups are doing the most to address your community needs, and how are they helping you?
So,
Libby, could I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
Could you also talk a little bit about the experience that your kids are having in school and challenges to the families too, if you don't mind sharing that?
Sure. So I think for the challenges the kids are facing in school, they are going back starting April 5th. I know they've been struggling being depressed and just in general lonely. They miss their friends. They are not getting a very good education with the Zoom. They have connection issues. A lot of the kids from the low income families don't have computers. The schools have given these kids computers, but they don't always have Wi-Fi, or it's not a good connection all the time. So if these kids aren't getting on their classes, they are not learning. My kids, I have computers for all of them. We have 2 different internet providers at our house, and they still are missing classes, not getting on. They're missing, the education they're missing a ton right now. So I'm happy that they're going to be going back. I know a lot of the kids are excited to be getting back to school, just to have the connection with their friends and their peers. I think that's going to be a good thing for the kids. But I've seen just kids lonely, bored, not getting exercise. I know the schools were giving food out to the kids for the low income children and kids who might not have food otherwise. The school was the only chance that they had for meals. So They did a good job at continuing to provide meals throughout the year, even though there wasn't school in session at the school. So I think it's going to be good for the kids to get back to school because they're social. They're very social kids. You know, they like to all be together with their friends, and I'm just happy that they're starting to open the schools back up again in a few weeks. So that's as far as the kids go, that's been what I've seen. And for the signs of hope that I have seen, we have had an outpouring of people coming in to buy gift cards to donate. Alas is one of them, and they come regularly and buy hundreds of gift cards at a time, and they hand them out to the families that are in need. We also have had Coastside Hope. In the beginning of the pandemic, they came in and bought food from us at cost. We sold to them so they could give to the families that they were handing food out to every week, which was amazing. And St. Vincent de Paul Society has also come in and purchased gift cards. So it's just amazing how many people have come, these organizations, but also individual community members who have extra funds they wanted to buy gift cards and give to people that they knew needed help buying groceries. So there's just been so many people coming out of, you know, people still working at home and people going to work still who want to help and provide that are doing it. So it's been really nice that we've had a lot of people coming in to buy gift cards for people in the community.
Thanks, Libby.
You're welcome.
Okay, Libby, we'll have you answer this next question. What issues may prevent this community from effectively dealing with challenges in the future, and what is needed? Oh, excuse me 1 second. Emily, I skipped you for that question. Did I not? You're on mute.
Sorry.
There.
Picking up on what you mentioned about gift cards made me think of Nextdoor, which is where I actually learned about the possibility of gift cards. And that is something new in the community. That's something to look at in terms of how we work together, how we share ideas. It's sometimes not a very positive adventure on Nextdoor, but I think it has a role to play, and that is new in our community. Alice, I was just delighted, that Alice is in our community now. And other things that I have found useful from our organization's role is that the Chamber of Commerce has a nonprofit roundtable, and Zoom has been a really valuable way for us to get together, and it gives you ideas about ways in which you can collaborate with other programs in the community. For example, Jenny, you have a representative who comes there every week and gotten good ideas from her about things that are going to support our organization. So I wonder, how do churches collaborate with one another? Do they belong to the chamber? Are they a part of that kind of collaboration?
Well, I know that we all belong to the chamber.
I thought maybe so, yeah.
We do. Pastor Stu, maybe you could address that a little bit more about how the churches collaborate with each other.
Yeah, well, we do belong to the chamber. I can't say that we've been super active at this point, but that's something that we've been talking about in council, is to step up our participation. How we collaborate with each other, usually on projects like the backpack project. We work with Holy Family and the like the Christmas Sing that all the faith families come together, and that kind of thing is mostly how we work together. We are also just forming a new Faith in Action Coastside, which is just getting off the ground, which Joanne and Shauna and Rabbi Moshe are part of. and Jean is too. I'm trying to look at my screen. Anyway, so we're I would say in the early stages of solidifying that at this point.
Thank you.
Other things that I have that I feel positive about are the kind of listening panels, for example, that our own city council has held. I think it's given people a greater voice, and a voice that I think may have had some effect on the direction things go in our council or in our town. And I'd like to see more of that happen up and down the rest of the coast, I guess I would say. And what else was I noting in particular? Oh, I think the development of Coastside Gives, sponsored by Mavericks, has been valuable also in terms of money raises for nonprofits. I think it's been quite successful, and we've participated in that. And something coming along soon is, I'm going to get the name wrong, but there's this idea of age-friendly villages. And I think that movement is coming to the coastside in I wish I could remember the name of it, but the idea of making our community more livable. Things like, for example, if you lived in Kenyatta Cove, can you ride a three-wheel bicycle successfully into town? Just as an example. I think I would like to see what comes out of that movement. And I'm looking, someone knocked at my door just now at the same time and distracted me, but okay, I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Emily. So Libby, we'll go to you now and ask you the next question. What issues may prevent this community from effective dealing with challenges in the future, and what is needed?
I think the community needs to keep coming together and supporting each other. The people who can help have been coming out and helping, and I think it's really nice to see. And I hope that people continue to do that. That everybody starts, working together with different organizations and getting involved in the community. I've lived here my whole life, and I love to see the people I've known my whole life and the kids all growing up together. It'd just be really nice if everybody can continue to support each other in all different aspects of life, because I think it's important that we all support each other. I think if we don't have that, we don't have the community. And that's something that I love about the Coastside is it's a pretty small community, and it's just nice to help each other.
Thanks, Libby. So Jenny, I'll ask you the same question. What issues may prevent this community from effective dealing with the challenges in the future, and what is needed?
Well, I agree with Libby that there's a great deal of coming together that I see, but I also see a lot of separate bubbles in our Coastside community, and they tend to have very different values that are underpinning them and bringing them together. And I would like to see all of us try and reimagine a world where we didn't have, where those separations were maybe celebrated, but on the other hand, where the values are not tolerant, not open, could be broken down a little bit, that we could get out of our comfort zones. Because I see, when I think about the kids in our community, the way that kids grow up and thrive, they're either in kind of the sports culture, and then I see that sports culture shunning people as they get to be a certain age. And then I see a culture of sometimes a little bit, well, just to I'm trying to say how to say this delicately. So we have really wonderful immigrant groups here, right? We have those that were Portuguese ancestry, those of Italian ancestry, those of later comers like myself. And we are very much in our, it's hard to break those down. And then we have really a huge disparate, I mean, the wealth here, and there's this fair amount of uber wealth here. And there's a lot of tremendous poverty here. And in order for you to for us as a community to break that down, I really think we have to have very real conversations about what that is. It's not enough to say, let's be kind, let's do what we can. None of those sentiments, as lovely as they are, will ever break down the types of divisions that we end up being complicit in by just being grateful that we live on a beautiful coastside and can live here, but we're seeing families that can't live here, right, after some time. And, you know, kids have to move away and can't stay here without focusing on the equities of jobs and housing and the affordability of food here. There's never, we're not going to have the diverse community here, and it'll become, you know, you'll have the haves and have-nots, and then soon you won't have the have-nots, right? Because you cannot afford it here. So I don't like to sound negative because I'm an amazingly idealistic and hopeful person, and I can reimagine a very different world here because I see people who flock here for very meaningful wanting to connect and change the way we operate with each other. So I see the pandemic as a great opportunity for us to tap that and not lose that fact that everybody has a sense of being socially isolated now, to tap that and to use that as a motivator to say, how do we really correct some of those inequities? Because I think that, yeah, that's all I can say, I guess, about it. It's a big question you posed there, which deserves lots of philosophy and lots of politics and lots of various angles for how to think about it. So I appreciate the question and want to hear from all of you, actually. I feel like we've been invited as guests, but I'm dying to hear from you guys.
Thank you, Jenny. Emily, we're going to ask you the same questions. What issues may prevent this community from effectively dealing with challenges in the future, and what is needed? We can't hear you, Emily. I guess you have to unmute yourself. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay.
I'm sorry. Okay. I certainly, you know, second what Jenny said in terms of we do tend to be in our own enclaves. Things that might help are, I'm thinking now of some of you maybe have been involved with CERT, the emergency preparedness effort that's going on in our community. And it's an effort then that is looking at how do we address safety in all parts of our community. And I know people involved in that who would be working at bridging between different ethnic enclaves in our community or age enclaves. And I think, you know, the more we can identify valuable community efforts like that, might be a way of breaking down some of the barriers. It's been valuable in another way in the sense that my neighborhood is a very nice, supportive neighborhood, but it's become more supportive of one another in terms of people looking out for each other in our neighborhood. I think increasing income disparities in our community are a big problem. And I would hope over time that we can develop a sense of the need for social supports in our community. I know it's very controversial, but I was really pleased to see the effort made to house the homeless, for example. A lot of NIMBYism in our community, just like every community. But I think that was a move in the right direction. I guess to see people participate on advisory panels and that kind of thing, take an opportunity to get involved with the city, and to encourage folks who are not represented there to participate. And I've lost track of the question.
No, you were fine. It's like, what do you think is needed? I think you did fine, Emily. So
I think I said what I think is needed, and that is
right.
to grasp those things that are working right now, some of which were promoted by the need to communicate on Zoom, for example, and don't let go of them.
Okay. Thanks, Emily. So Emily, I'll ask you our last question. What role do you see faith communities playing in the building of a healthy community?
Well, I also happen to be involved with the Methodist Church, and I grew up as a Methodist. And at the time when the social gospel was very much an emphasis within the church, and I think the things I see that get churches involved in the community, for example, I thought the number of breakfast or meal kinds of things you've had going on in your community were marvelous. And I would, look forward to those things being revived again. The same thing with what the Catholic Church has done with the Thursday evening meals at the senior center. So I would like churches, mine included, to look at community support and outreach, not just inward looking, but looking out. For example, what could a youth group do to engage with perhaps care packages for the homeless, that kind of thing. So I think if churches are perceived as a valuable social service in a sense, or support of the community, they become more attractive.
Thank you. And then Jenny, I'll ask you that same question. What role do you see faith communities playing in the building of a healthy community?
I think they're a real critical role that they already play, and that they can play a greater role when you think about intergenerational work, when you think about cross-faith work. And I could see a faith in action group taking on equity issues head on and trying to think through what are the ways to touch social determinants of health that create the conditions for people not getting ahead and people being left behind and people being pushed behind because of the conditions that we create together as a community. And so I see the faith community as being able to raise these important questions and thoughtfully address them through the strengths and the resiliencies of each community, because we do have a lot of knowledge and people from really diverse points of view that if they're brought together and can have some conversations, I think I believe that real change happens not because systems change or that the congregation changes, but that people change it, that it's never like, it's that entity or this entity. It's that we all either change what we do together or the things stay the same. So I see the faith-based communities across as being kind of leaders, really, of being thought agents, and the authority that the faith leaders have to address their congregations and have a dialogue that cuts across equity issues and ties it in a concrete way to what nonprofits are doing, or what the city's doing, but what people are doing is where I see it's sort of all our jobs to do wherever we sit. But I think the faith community has this really wonderful platform, if you will, because you've got members in the seats, whether they're in Zoom seats or not. And so being able to have those conversations with each other, and then with your congregations and with all of us, I think would galvanize and motivate us to break down some of those barriers. And yeah.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. All right, Libby, we'll ask you that last question. How do you see faith communities playing in the building of a healthy community?
I agree with what Emily and Jenny both said. I think you guys have both had valuable information and points there. I think that if there's a way to create groups to draw other parts of the community in, maybe that aren't part of the church communities, just to get the people out there together, just different groups of people, if it's youth groups or if it's helping the homeless, just trying to help get different variety of people together to work together. I know at Cunha they have a challenge day where they get the kids together and they spend a day where things that other people don't know about them, their parents or their friends may not know about them, they get together and they share all this stuff for the day. And all of these kids from different walks of life, different income levels for their families, become very close. They kind of have a support and trust in each other after they spend this day together. So I don't know if there's a way to do something similar to that. I heard great things when I was on the Cunha PTO from the teachers, the parents, and the kids who participated in things like that. Just kind of finding things out about each other that they didn't know brought them closer together, which was a really great thing for all of them, adults and kids alike. So I think there's a way to bring people together to support each other and help each other, no matter what their background is or their ethnicity, or there's a way that people will work together and help each other out. And I think that you're in a good position to be able to get those people together and help them different ways.
Thank you. So I had a question. I think Emily would be towards you. Is like, would the seniors like our village of the Coastside or different members like want to do like tutoring for kids that need help or things like that?
Well, and I was going to digress a little bit. I wanted to just go on a little bit from what I said about the last question. Is we talked about doing things in the community to support the community. And then I thought of this idea that, and rather than doing things for people, we need to do things with people. And I hear you talking about that, Libby, for example, with that day at Cunha, where kids were together with each other. And so if we can look for those opportunities, for example, I did senior brown bag, not senior, just community brown bag as a part of Hope at one time. And I realized the folks who we are handing things out to themselves want to be helpers. And how do we engage them? How do we do it together rather than for someone else? And so that wasn't your question, Teresa. Ask your question again.
No, it was like, so Pastor Sue, I could see probably part of the question because on my I can't read the whole question, so I need your help a little bit, but I think the question was like, do you see
Yeah.
seniors coming and like helping to tutor the kids in school? Is that
Right. So, yeah, let me read the whole question. Could seniors, or do they already provide tutoring in person or on Zoom for elementary, middle, or high school students, or mentoring perhaps? I have no idea if feasible or something folks would like. Could be a blessing to the senior citizen too, I think.
Yeah, no, I think we're interested in working on intergenerational or cross-generational activities. And that's another challenge right now. There would be people who are interested, and they are doing it now individually, but not as part of our effort. For example, through the library, there is a tutoring program, and our members are involved in that. But yes.
And I know the Rotary, we do something, life skills at the high schools, and we go and we teach the kids. I've taught finance classes to the kids, like how to balance your checkbook, about credit, we do mock interviews with them for how to dress for an interview. So yeah, we've been doing things like that. So yes. So yeah, Pastor Sue, I do need help with the questions because I'm only getting half the.
Yeah. So there
Yeah.
were a couple more comments regarding the tutoring, and then I'll loop back. Read the tutoring. There's a big program held at Moonridge for K through 3 graders who were behind in reading, stopped due to the COVID. There's also a current program through Boys and Girls Club, currently on Zoom. And then Jenny added that Alice and Boys and Girls Club does tutoring as well. So the other question was, oh, and then also on the tutoring question was, similarly, could or do high schoolers or middle schoolers tutor younger kids? Was another comment on tutoring. Henry is asking, Coastside Lutheran is blessed to have a large gathering space, our church sanctuary, as well as several acres of law land adjacent. Are there ways each of you could envision us using these more effectively to serve the community? So our space and our land.
So Jenny, do you want to answer that question?
Sure, I guess I need to think about it, but I'm sure there are like all sorts of great ideas for this. So the bigger the space right now is so critical with COVID, right? In terms of gathering. So a big sanctuary would allow groups that wouldn't otherwise not be able to gather 6 feet apart in smaller areas. So clearly just hosting events there is a great idea, and having them be more community-wide. And as Libby said, kind of getting a diverse perspectives and points of view there. I think it's always great to find ways to bridge people when you are going to celebrate something about them and about their heritage. And so things that are fun, things that are where people learn about each other are always really wonderful events. So things along those lines. In terms of the land, I walk down Sewer Road pretty frequently with my dog. So I'm like envisioning it and how beautiful it is, and how so many tourists now come to the parking lot and take pictures with the sourgrass or the clover, the sweet clover that's in the land. So I'm thinking would be wonderful to do something in that beautiful field. Really the sky's the limit. If the goal is to bring people together to have an experience, maybe touching base with some of our community members who really are good at coming up with fun events where people can be in that land and in that space but off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of anything in particular, but maybe you do have people come and do pods and they take photos and then they say something about themselves on the photo, and then the photo gets shared in the community with some message of, and you have themes on the messaging that you could do that could then fall in line with equity again, trying to tie it back to the needs. I really think those basic needs of health, and everybody touched on it already, health, jobs, and food, and how do you address those needs in a way that could be a conversation and use that beautiful field. I know right after this, I'm going to like start Googling what other people have done in that area of trying to have the conversations, but use one's land. And I do a lot of work in tribal communities, so I'm thinking very specifically about tribal communities and how they do use the land very intentionally because of their culture and because of what the specific land for the specific tribe, if they're in their indigenous lands, which is very rare, more so here in Northern California. But I'm thinking about that, and they're very, they can clearly draw on the customs and traditions of their people and their stories. And so perhaps that's what's missing in our Western culture here, is that we don't have those stories, right? Those stories are disparate. There are threads based on one's faith, or there are threads based on one's own family. And so I like the idea of celebrating, like, if you're from Portugal originally in your family, then what are those traditions? If you're from a small town in Italy, what are those traditions? If you're from Oaxaca, those traditions, or Jalisco. And so trying to think through what are those stories so that people can get to know each other through those stories, and then through the field, I don't know. Anyway, but I think, maybe that's the first thing you could do, is just have a meeting where people brainstorm. What would that look like? What would excite people to come? So that whatever you're doing, people are invested in it because they created the idea together. So
I would sort of think on top of that, what about celebrating our ethnic differences rather than trying to avoid the fact that we are different? And I can see, sometimes people laugh about schools having food events where you bring food for your representative of your culture. But actually, that's a pretty effective thing to do. It'd be fun to have a festival like that.
It would. So yeah, I can't wait till we can get a little more freer after COVID to do all these things. I know I volunteered to do that for my grandson. We're Italian, and I made biscottis for his class one time, and it was a lot of fun, and learning about different people's backgrounds and their ethnic customs and stuff. It was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so much fun. I've been part of that before too. And in one place that I was at, we hosted a diversity day, I guess, potluck meal. And oh my gosh, we had so much food. Everybody was so excited to bring their favorite recipe from their childhood or from whatever, that we ended up having so much food that we packaged up all the leftovers and like brought it to one of the homeless shelters to share it, because it was just so much. It was amazing. But everyone was so excited to share from their heritage. It was very cool. It's a great idea, you guys.
It is. So Libby, did you want to add anything to that about what you think we can use our church for, or our fields for?
Yeah, I think the ideas of getting together and celebrating different ethnicities and different age groups is a great idea. And then also I wanted to say about the tutoring. I know there's so many kids who need tutoring and can't get into the boys and girls. I tried to get my kids on the list and couldn't get in. So there's definitely kids out there who would benefit from that. And I know there's the kids at the high school have to do community service hours. And I believe even for eighth graders to graduate have to do hours in the community. When I was in high school, I volunteered to do gardening for senior citizens, which I loved. It was just so much fun to go in someone's yard and get to know them and help them make their yard beautiful. So I think that different age groups can work together, supporting each other and not just always taking or giving, but giving and taking, that we can all kind of help each other with that. So I think getting together in the parking lot, different groups being able to do things for one another, not just one way or the other. That you can need stuff, but you also have things you can give. And I think that's true for a lot of people, is they might need something specific, but they also have something they can give. So I
Thank
think
you. So does anyone have any other questions? No. Okay. So I want to thank each of you for participating today. This is really important because our church is doing, we have like a team and we're working on revitalizing our church, and we're going to be having more of these kinds of conversations with our community members. All of you are welcome if you wanted to just be not a participant, just to listen in. We're on Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We're going to be having Crystalline from the Chamber of Commerce, Eric from Abundant Grace, and Judith Guerrero from Coastside Hope. So if any of you are interested, you're welcome to come in as a just to listen and hear what they have to say. It's the same. It'll be the same Zoom to get in, the same Zoom address, and it'll be at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. And I really want to thank each of you again so very much, because you're going to help us make a difference in the community, and that's really what we want to do. We don't just want to be, like I said before, we don't just want to be a building. We want to be the community and be part of with all of you. Does anyone want to add anything, Henry or Pastor Sue?
Oh yeah, I just want to thank everybody for putting so much thought into your answers. I could tell that you all have sat down before and had really thought through the answers that you provided. And really, thank you so much for the insights that you brought. Thank you for all the things that you're doing for our community in your own organizations. And yeah, I'm totally looking forward to collaborating with your groups more as we go forward. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday afternoon with us.
Yes, thank you all. And if you have, come up with some other ideas, you all three of you have my ways to reach me, and I'd be glad to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. Thanks, guys. Great feedback. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank
Great
you.
to meet all of you.
Thank you. It was really nice. Thanks very much.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.